Imagine for a second trading an old, worn-out, completely faded t-shirt for a brand new, shiny steel cooking pot.
It sounds totally wild, right?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it sounds like some sort of weird industrial fairy tale, a modern-day Rumpelstiltskin, but spinning cotton into steel instead of gold.
Exactly, yeah. But the crazy part is, it's not fiction.
No, it's not. This is actually a real piece of history. And believe it or not, this bizarre little transaction holds the secret to solving the modern fashion industry's multi-million ton waste problem.
It really is the key to the whole thing.
So how do we turn today's absolute mountain of trash into tomorrow's economic treasure? Well, we are going to resolve this secret connection by the end of our deep dive today.
It's a fantastic historical parallel because it forces us to immediately stop looking at old clothes as garbage,
Yeah.
and start looking at them as actual currency.
Which is a massive shift.
Huge. And that shift in mindset is basically the foundation of everything we are unpacking today for you.
I am so ready for this. Welcome to Spin 4, Episode 4 of Threads of Tomorrow Crafting Textiles, brought to you by omemi.com. Over the last few deep dives, we have been tackling the heavy hitters.
The really big topics.
Yeah, we've looked at the psychology of consumerism, the true meaning of sustainability, the art of upcycling, and we spent quite a bit of time navigating the really dark waters of misinformation and greenwashing.
Which is incredibly common, unfortunately.
Mm.
I mean, just printing a little green leaf on a tag doesn't magically neutralize the environmental impact of a garment.
Oh, not even close. So today, we are taking this discussion a massive step forward. We are dedicating this entire deep dive to the opportunities of value generation using textile waste.
We're basically exploring the critical shift from a highly wasteful linear fashion model to a sustainable circular economy.
Right, a model that actually views discarded fabrics as incredibly valuable assets just waiting to be tapped.
But, to appreciate the value of that treasure, we really have to confront the monster we've created first.
The monster in the landfill?
Exactly. We all know the linear take, make, dispose model is just, well, it's choking the planet. We take raw materials, manufacture clothing, wear it a few times, and then just throw it away.
And the scale of that is almost incomprehensible. I mean, we're talking millions of tons of textiles sitting and rotting in landfills every single year.
And it's not passive waste either. As those textiles, particularly the natural fibers or blends, as they decompose in those massive, oxygen-starved mountains of trash, they off-gas methane.
Which is bad news.
Very bad news. Methane is a highly potent greenhouse gas. It's actually far more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide over the short term.
Wow. But what really blew my mind in the research was the dark side of how we try to get rid of it. The sources mentioned burning textiles to generate energy.
Ah, yes, incineration.
Right. And on paper, to a layperson, that almost sounds like a good thing. Like, it sounds like recycling. You're extracting energy from the waste.
Well, it is heavily marketed that way for sure. It's often presented as this sleek, modern, quick fix to the waste management problem.
Like magically make the garbage disappear and put power back into the grid.
Exactly. But the reality of incineration is actually really grim. When you burn millions of tons of chemically treated fabrics, synthetic dyes, and, polyester plastics, you release highly harmful emissions.
Toxic chemicals directly into the atmosphere.
Right into the air we breathe.
So it's basically trading soil pollution for air pollution. Instead of letting the toxic dump sit at the end of the one-way street, you just you set the dump on fire and let everyone breathe it in.
That captures the absurdity of the linear model perfectly. And this is exactly why the industry must pivot to a circular economy.
Where things actually loop back around.
Right. A circular economy creates closed-loop systems where the whole goal is to reuse materials with minimal or even zero carbon footprints. The end of one product's life becomes the literal raw material for the beginning of another's.
See, the circular economy sounds fantastic in theory, but textile waste is a massive, chaotic umbrella term.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about the variety in your own closet right now. You've got denim, silk, polyester blends, spandex. How do we actually break this monster down into manageable, profitable pieces without just getting completely overwhelmed?
Well, we have to compartmentalize the problem. And the most logical place to start isn't the landfill, and it actually isn't even your closet.
Wait, really? Where do we start then?
We have to go to the very beginning of a garment's life, long before it reaches a store hanger. We have to look at the factory floor. This is what we call pre-consumer waste.
Okay, let's walk onto the factory floor then. Set the scene for us.
So pre-consumer textile waste, is basically the material generated during the actual production process. When a factory makes a piece of clothing, they don't weave a perfectly human-shaped shirt on a loom.
That would be pretty creepy, honestly.
Right, no, they weave massive, continuous rectangular rolls of fabric. They lay those rolls flat, and then they stamp or cut the pattern pieces out of them.
Which makes sense because human bodies are full of curves, but fabric comes in straight lines. It's, um, it's exactly like baking sugar cookies.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you roll out the sheet of dough, you cut out the star and the circle shapes, and you are left with all that perfectly good, perfectly clean dough just sitting in the negative space between the shapes.
That is the perfect analogy. In the textile world, those in-between pieces are called offcuts.
Mm-hmm.
And the volume of them is just staggering.
How staggering are we talking?
Well, according to Mr. Sandeep Jain from TT Industries in Amroha, an average of 15% of fabric is removed just during that pattern cutting phase alone.
Wait, 15%.
15%.
Let that sink in for a second for you listening. So for every 100 shirts a factory produces, they are essentially sweeping enough pristine, brand new fabric off the floor to make 15 more shirts.
Exactly. But here's the incredible economic opportunity with that. These offcuts are completely clean.
Because they've never been worn.
Right. They haven't been washed. They haven't been contaminated by household garbage. They could be sorted by color and material right there on the factory floor and sent into a second life cycle at the source itself.
So let's talk about the how of that second life cycle, because this is where the mechanics get really fascinating. If I have a mountain of pure cotton offcuts from making t-shirts, how does that actually become something new?
Okay, so with pure cotton, the mechanical pathway is very well defined. Giant industrial machines with thousands of steel pins literally tear the fabric scraps apart.
Oh, wow, they just shred it.
Basically, yeah. They open up the weave and return the fabric to this fluffy fibrous state. Those reclaimed cotton fibers can then be respun into new yarns.
Does it lower the quality, though?
It does a bit, because the tearing process shortens the staple length of the fiber, making it slightly weaker than virgin cotton. So these respun yarns are often utilized for industries other than premium clothing.
Like what?
Think heavy home furnishings, rugs, or even industrial mops.
Okay, that makes sense. What about synthetics, though? Like pure polyester offcuts from making athletic wear?
Synthetics are essentially plastics, so the process is entirely different. Instead of shredding and spinning, you can simply melt the polyester scraps back down into a liquid polymer.
Just melt it right down.
Exactly. And then you extrude it through tiny holes, sort of like a high-tech shower head, to create fresh, new synthetic yarns. It's a highly efficient process.
Okay, so I get melting plastic and I get carding pure cotton, but I am completely lost on how you handle a blend.
Blends are the tricky ones.
Yeah, think about a standard polycotton t-shirt. You can't melt it because the cotton will just burn up. And if you shred it, you've got this chaotic mix of plastic and natural fibers that might not spin well together. So what happens to the blends?
You're right. Blended offcuts are absolutely trickier, but they do have a distinct pathway. Instead of trying to separate them mechanically or spin them into fine yarn, they are violently shredded and then turned into non-wovens.
Non-wovens, meaning they aren't knitted or woven on a loom at all?
Correct. Think of felt, or, the padding inside your car doors. The shredded, blended fibers are laid down in a web and then bonded together using heat, intense friction, or pressure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and these become industrial products, things like thermal buffers, acoustic panels, and industrial polishers.
So the offcuts, the cookie dough as we called it, have clear pathways if you capture them.
Yeah.
But what about the actual clothes that get fully assembled but just don't make the cut, like the factory rejects?
Right, production surplus and rejects. These are items that fail a quality check somewhere in the supply chain. Maybe it has a slightly crooked hem or, an off-spec dye job.
So they never actually reach the primary intended customer.
Right, and very often these find their way into the informal market economy. They are sold at heavily marked down prices. A famous example of this ecosystem is the Sarojini Nagar market in Delhi.
Oh, yeah?
It's a massive, bustling hub for exactly this kind of export surplus.
It's a legendary spot. You can dig through piles and find a designer jacket with a tiny, basically invisible flaw for like $5. But the big corporate brands absolutely despise this practice, don't they?
Oh, they hate it.
Yeah.
They view it as a major threat to their brand equity. Big fashion houses fear losing their exclusivity. I mean, they spend millions cultivating an image, and they don't want their luxury labels sitting in an informal street market.
Even if the alternative is tossing the jacket in an incinerator?
Sad but true.
It's a real clash between corporate vanity and environmental sanity. But looking at the whole pre-consumer landscape, if the massive factories already have their offcuts and surplus somewhat organized, where is the actual business opportunity for our listeners? Like, where is the blind spot?
Well, the blind spot is actually huge. Close to 30% of apparel manufacturing happens in small to medium customized boutiques.
Wait, 30%?
Yes, 30%. We're talking about local tailors, independent designers, and small batch manufacturers. And these smaller operations are completely disconnected from the organized scrap collection chains.
Wow, so that 30% is just a hidden multi-million-dollar gold mine sitting in the back alleys of our cities, completely ignored by the big recycling conglomerates.
Exactly. And that is a massive gap waiting to be monetized by an entrepreneur who can figure out the logistics of aggregating scrap from hundreds of small boutiques. But as we leave the somewhat organized factory floor, we have to transition to the much messier, much more complicated source of waste.
You mean post-consumer waste, the stuff sitting in our closets right now?
Exactly. This is a totally different game. Post-consumer waste basically falls into two distinct categories: reusable and non-reusable.
Let's tackle reusable first. This is the clothing that still has plenty of structural life left in it. You've just, outgrown it, or you're tired of looking at it.
Right. The classic pathway here is the charity shop, and it's really worth highlighting that organizations like the British Heart Foundation were absolute pioneers of circularity decades before it ever became a trendy corporate buzzword.
Oh, for sure.
They built these vast infrastructures to collect donations, sanitize them, and resell them to fund their medical research.
It's such a beautiful system that maintains dignity for everyone in the chain while keeping the clothes in active rotation. What else is emerging in the reusable space, though?
Well, the clothing rental market is just exploding. We see this with glossy new corporate e-commerce platforms offering monthly subscription boxes, but its cultural roots are actually much deeper.
Really? How so?
Renting occasion wear has long been an integral, highly practical part of commerce in the semi-urban Indian wedding economy.
Oh, which makes perfect sense when you think about it. I mean, wedding clothes are heavy, elaborate, incredibly expensive, and designed to be worn exactly one time.
Exactly.
Buying them to just sit in a garment bag for 30 years is the ultimate linear model. Renting them is pure circularity.
You also have the rise of clothing swap economies. We've always had hand-me-downs between siblings, sure, but modern swap events are scaling this concept up. They're structuring it to bring complete strangers together.
I love the psychology behind that, because there are these weird prejudices rooted in familiarity. You might look at your older sibling's coat and think, oh, I am never wearing that, it smells like my brother.
Right.
But if you take that exact same coat, put it on a rack in a trendy warehouse, and swap it with a complete stranger, suddenly it's this cool, curated vintage find.
Human psychology plays a huge role in the perceived value of clothing.
It really, really does. So before we dive into the physical mechanics of the non-reusable stuff, the really torn, stained clothes, I want to take a quick second to connect directly with you, the listener.
Yes, this is a lot of info.
It is. We are unpacking a mountain of complex, actionable information today, and I want to remind you that this deep dive, this entire story, is brought to you by omemi.com, omemi.com. You can actually visit omemi.com to read the whole story at ease, at your own pace.
Which is super helpful.
It is. And if you are serious about understanding this space, I highly invite you to join the omemi.com WhatsApp community. It's called Devi the Curious. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the poster of this podcast. Joining Devi the Curious will keep you informed about new podcasts, blogs, tools, trainings, and live workshops curated specifically for this niche audience. And please drop a comment in the box about the topics you'd like to hear us tackle next.
We always love seeing those.
We do.
Mm.
All right, let's get our hands dirty again. We talked about the reusable clothes. What happens to the non-reusable post-consumer waste, like the permanently stained shirt, the jeans that are worn paper thin?
Right. So if properly sorted, non-reusable post-consumer waste can enter the exact same mechanical pathways as the pre-consumer factory offcuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can be shredded, respun, or turned into non-wovens. But the challenge is the sorting. A factory offcut is pure and predictable, but a garbage bag full of household donations. That is a chaotic mix of 100 different fiber types, zippers, buttons, and dyes.
Right, so mixed fiber waste is the biggest hurdle. Going back to my earlier confusion, if I have a massive bale of post-consumer shirts that are 80% cotton and 20% polyester, mechanical shredding weakens the fiber. Is there a better way to separate the natural from the synthetic?
There is, actually. And it's some of the most exciting breakthrough chemistry happening right now. Innovators are developing advanced solvent methods.
Okay, how does that work?
Instead of physically tearing the fabric apart, they use highly targeted chemical agents. Think of it like, well, molecular lockpicking.
Molecular lockpicking, I like that.
The solvent is designed to only interact with the synthetic polymer bonds. It dissolves the polyester minority yarns, turning them into a liquid, while leaving the cotton fibers completely intact and undamaged, just floating in the solution.
That is wild. It's like washing away the dirt to leave the gold nuggets perfectly intact. You extract the pure cotton to be made into high-quality nonwovens, and you've captured the plastic, too.
It's revolutionary. But we also shouldn't ignore the fact that traditional textile shredding isn't just some futuristic lab experiment or a new trend. It has actually been a dominant, economically viable cottage industry in towns like Pennapat, Amroha, and Pilakua for decades.
Oh, really? Decades?
Oh, yeah. Entire regional economies have been built around importing and shredding discarded textiles.
So the proof of concept is already there. The financial model clearly works. It just needs to be modernized, scaled, and applied to our domestic waste. But, this brings up a critical red flag from the research that I really want to challenge you on.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
So I was reading about innovators turning this shredded waste into non-textile goods. They are taking fabric fluff and pressing it into furniture, hard molded bags, or even insulation bricks for housing construction.
Right. Very popular right now.
Which sounds incredibly innovative on the surface. But wait. If you take shredded cotton, which is a natural fiber that will harmlessly degrade in soil over time, and you bind it together with toxic synthetic resins and glues to make a hard brick for a chair, haven't you just created a product that will never naturally degrade?
That is a very good point.
Aren't we basically taking a manageable problem and permanently mummifying it into a toxic block of plastic?
That is an incredibly sharp observation, and it highlights a major sustainability trap. You are absolutely right. Repurposing beyond textiles can be highly process-intensive. It can add heavy carbon footprints during the manufacturing phase.
And the glues.
Yeah, if a company uses the wrong additives, like cheap synthetic resins to bind those fibers together, they permanently strip the fabric of its natural degradation ability.
Which is just the ultimate form of greenwashing. I mean, a consumer buys a chair marketed as being made from 100% recycled clothing, and they feel wonderful about their environmental impact.
Of course they do.
But when that chair breaks in 10 years, it's going to sit in a landfill for a millennium because it's glued together with petrochemicals.
It requires extreme caution. True innovators in this non-textile space must use natural resins, mycelium-based glues, or bio-based binders to ensure the new product retains its ability to return to the earth.
So you have to really check the fine print.
Exactly. When you, as a consumer or an entrepreneur, are looking at these non-textile applications, you have to be highly critical of the chemical binding processes hidden behind those shiny sustainability claims.
Okay, so we understand the raw materials, we understand the mechanical and chemical processes, we understand the sustainability traps to avoid. Let's get to the gold mine. Let's turn this knowledge into a strategic guide for you, the listener. Walk us through the playbook for building a trash-to-treasure business.
All right, the most fundamental thing to understand about the trash-to-treasure model is that it forces you to flip the classic business approach completely upside down.
How so? Because in a normal business, I find a customer pain point, I design a product to solve it, and then I go source the materials to build my product.
Exactly the opposite here. In a circular economy enterprise, the raw material dictates everything. You don't start with the customer, you start with the waste. The playbook actually has 4 critical steps.
Okay, walk us through step 1.
Step 1 is identifying the waste category. You have to know exactly what you are dealing with before you can dream up a product. Are you getting pure single-fiber pre-consumer offcuts from a local denim factory? Or are you dealing with heavily mixed, unsanitized post-consumer garbage dump scraps?
Because that changes everything.
Everything. Your processing methods, your machinery costs, and your final product possibilities will wildly differ based solely on the quality of your input.
That makes total sense. You can't plan to spin premium, high-end yarn if your input is a chaotic mix of polyester blends pulled from a landfill. Your material dictates your ceiling. So what comes after identifying the category?
Step 2 is identifying the source and securing the supply chain. We talked about how Panapat has successfully imported massive bales of old Western clothes for decades to make blankets.
Right.
But relying on international imports is volatile, and it carries a heavy shipping carbon footprint. True sustainability requires domestic collection.
But domestic household collection in a vast, culturally diverse country requires totally new, creative logistical ideas.
It really does.
Because I can't just walk out to my suburban street corner and find a giant, organized industrial fabric sorting bin. The logistics of getting the shirt from my closet to your shredding facility is the hardest part.
But once you secure the material and the logistics, you move to step 3, checking market feasibility. Now that you know what material you have and you know you can get it reliably, you have to figure out if anyone actually wants to buy the specific end product you are capable of making.
Okay, so if your raw material limits you to making acoustic insulation panels, you need to know if the local construction industry is actually willing to buy them.
Precisely. And finally, the math. Step 4.
What's step 4?
Step 4 is checking financial feasibility using cash flow forecasting.
Let's strip away the accounting jargon for a second. What does that actually look like for someone starting this in their garage or a small warehouse?
It basically means mapping out the physical reality of money entering and leaving your bank account every single month. You have to calculate your break-even period. This is the exact month where your net cash flow stops bleeding negative, hits zero, and finally turns positive.
And this is where the research just blew my mind. For micro-businesses entering this specific textile recycling space, that break-even period could be remarkably fast. We are talking 3 to 6 months.
It's incredibly fast.
Yeah, in the traditional business world, you might bleed money for 3 years before seeing a single dime of profit.
The timeline is drastically accelerated here because your primary raw material cost is incredibly low, or in some cases, it's completely free. If you're solving a waste removal problem for a local tailor, they might just give you the offcuts to save on their own disposal fees.
Wow. The landscape of possibilities here is just vast. Giving discarded textiles a second life has multiple entry and exit points.
You definitely don't have to do it all yourself.
No, not at all. You could just be a collector who sells to a sorter. You could be a sorter who sells to a shredder. Or you could be the manufacturer turning the fluff into yarn. There are huge economic opportunities at every single node of this network for anyone willing to step up and innovate.
It is an entire ecosystem just waiting to be explored and formalized.
Which brings us perfectly back to our opening mystery. At the very beginning of this deep dive, we talked about the bizarre concept of trading a worn-out t-shirt for a shiny new steel pot.
Ah, yes, the steel pot.
Yeah.
That historical anecdote perfectly encapsulates everything we've discussed today.
It really does.
In the past, grandmothers used to routinely exchange old, worn-out family clothing for shiny new steel utensils. There were networks of traveling barterers who would literally walk through neighborhoods, facilitating this exact trade.
It was a brilliant, highly localized system of creative incentivization for post-consumer waste collection.
And they didn't have fancy terminology for it back then. They didn't call it a sustainable circular economy ecosystem.
It was just common sense. You give me the material you no longer value, and I give you something highly functional for your kitchen in return.
It solved the logistical nightmare of step 2 that we just talked about.
Hmm.
And today, that domestic household collection gap is sitting wide open. We don't have those traveling barterers anymore, and as a result, people are just throwing their clothes in the trash.
Because it's easy.
Exactly. The market is desperately waiting for a modern innovator to recreate that localized, incentivized magic for the modern era.
Somebody listening to us right now could literally build a multi-million-dollar business simply by modernizing the clothes for steel pots idea. Gamifying collection, incentivizing the consumer, and capturing that raw material before it hits the methane-producing landfill.
The opportunity is definitely there.
As we wrap up this journey, I want to remind you once more to scan the QR code on the poster to join the Devi the Curious's WhatsApp community by omemi.com, oemenotall.com. It is the absolute best way to stay in the loop, get access to the tools we discussed, and connect with other innovators. And please, leave your topic requests in the comment box.
We read them all.
We really do. We will come back with more such content, so follow our podcasts and stay tuned.
But before you take off your headphones, I want to leave you with this one thought. The clothes we wear carry the intimate history of our lives. They absorb our celebrations, our struggles, the sweat of our daily routines. If we truly embrace this circular shift, what does it mean for our future when we learn to pass those physical memories into the walls of our homes, the seats of our chairs, and the fabric of our new communities? Think about what the shirt you're wearing right now might become in its next lifetime.